There we go. Hi, Ray, Danny, Lady Eva, Crimson, Nightshade. Happy birthday. We're all cracking one open for Nightshade's birthday, by the way. Everybody say happy birthday to Nightshade. It's their 21st, so it's the last special one before you can rent a car when you're 25. No. So, is my internet working? Oh no, that's a notification. It just wiped out the connection bar at the top. I was a little alarmed there for a second. We're working, right? You can hear me too? We're all cracking one open. Everybody get your smoothies. Got it. Thank you for the rose. Thank you. Thank you for the stuff. Tiny, is that a tiny dinosaur? Is that what that is? Swift blood. I feel like some sus stuff has been happening a lot. Everybody, I don't know, something, Swift blood has an accomplice now. I think they're staging a coup. I'm not sure. Maybe. So glad you're here. Thank you, Ray, for laughing at that. Yeah, we're going to leave it in the redacted. If you're wondering how you can join the redacted right now, you can't. Because I removed it for the month of Pride, since a bunch of people want to act like jackasses and try to infiltrate Discord. So I'm just being safe and leaving it off there for the entire month. And I'll put it back up. Because I've gotten conflicting dates of people coming into Discords and trying to dox people, and I don't want to put me or any of my lovely Discord followers into any sort of doxing danger, so we're not posting it until the end of the month. So if you don't know how to get there, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Ask a friend for an invite if you're really interested. But more than half that place is gay. I'm not putting you all in danger. So I don't want anybody to get anybody's info. But they were... What? Were you related what? No, it's someone said... Like, it was Felix, I think, relabeled themselves as your accomplice. So, very confused. Why you need an accomplice if you aren't committing some sort of... Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. I got my new favorite coffee mug here. Which, thank you. By the way, someone sent me a thing, and we're gonna open it. Someone sent me something off my Amazon wish list. And by someone, I mean Swiftblood. I'm pretty sure. I haven't opened it, but they took credit for it. So if they did and they didn't, then anyway, we're gonna open it. What? We're always committing something. Oh, what is all in here? What is all in here? There's something fuzzy. I touched something fuzzy. Oh, wait. Oh, did you get my pet stuff? Oh, all right. If I got me some pet stuff. That's adorable. Yes. They have catnip in them. And one's for Bella, and one's for Pond. And what is this? Oh. Oh, it's a dog treat. And it's for Scout. And send me little notes. Swift blood. Oh, thank you. Hey, you're good. We know you've had a weekend, and it's, you know, if you have to drop out and do stuff, we understand. Happy birthday. We'll be here when you can come back, probably, most likely. I'll try and get the upload up as quickly as I can so you can enjoy it on your birthday. If I can't do it tonight, I most certainly will. We'll see how it goes. It might be really rough. Might be a really rough recording, but we'll see. We'll see. Thank you so much, Swiftblood. And also, don't worry about it. Hashtag secretly a dolphin. Okay, that's on brand. That's on brand. These are going on the wall. And it's a sweater. It's a pink sweater. And T Galaxies might know what's up, because T Galaxy knows what I probably need a pink sweater for if they've read the follow-up. But if you don't know what the pink sweater is for, don't worry. You're going to figure it out here soon. So that's going to be fun. This is part of a cosplay I'm working on, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be on there. But crazily enough, I'm not even sure if I'm going to cosplay it or if it's going to be our frequent guest, Layla the Latex Lady, also known as Jasmine, my coworker. They might be playing this character, because that's why I got it in kind of a stretchy fabric and as a small, so it could fit either of us, because we're not sure which one we're going to do. It all depends on time and scheduling and stuff like that. But thank you very much, Swiftblood, for making this possible. Y'all have been super awesome and helping me out both on my Ko-fi and through Amazon, and I really appreciate it. I always appreciate it. It enables me to make better content. I still have a load of content to edit anyway, and now I get to shoot more with different characters and stuff that I've needed for different characters, and some stuff that I legit can't edit until I get the rest of the footage with these different characters. So it's helping me out a lot. Yes. Don't let him do that. Don't let him embarrass you. But I'll do my best, and if I get it done, awesome. If I don't, just know I'm thinking about you, and I hope you have a good one. Because nobody's 21st should be like that. I'm not spreading your personal business around, but I hope your birthday gets better. I'm getting all the Tosh quotes. What? Oh, the list? Are we talking about the existing list, or did I say something else just now? Don't tell me if I said something else just now. Just let me figure it out. It's fine. I'm sure I'll hear about it later. The list. Every single time someone mentions that, I think of, like, Jericho several years ago. It was like a wrestling bit back when Jericho used to be with WWE, and he used to be part of a tag team, and anytime someone pissed him off, he would put them on the list. It was like a hate list, and so his catchphrase was, "You just made the list!" And that's all I can think of every single time they mention this list. Is like a negative connotation. because I think of lists as bad if I'm on them. But I think people are enjoying it, so feel free to continue making them. I don't actually mind. It's more like a recessive memory, if anything. You made the list too. Excellent. I know I'm not like the only one, so like it's not just a list of shit I've said, it's a list of cumulative stuff. This matches my gauges. I just realized that. Nice. Oh yeah. I've heard it. And like the worst bit is I'm like trying to play a game and I'm accidentally saying content that is going on the list as I'm trying to concentrate while Swiftblood is reading the rest of the things on the list while I am actively dying. So that was fun. It was like hard mode. I'm gonna transcribe it into Minecraft. Maybe send me the others you get? I'm unsure. Is there more than one person collecting material for this thing? Is that what I'm hearing? Great, Swiftblood. Good to know. The list consistently grows. It's gonna be a never-ending Google Doc of shit that people have unwittingly said. Good to know. So, I don't want to bring this up. Okay, I take this back before I've even said anything. Far be it from me to assume. I have not checked Instagram. So it could be that I have received a couple of eulogies, but I have received no DMs in Redacted for any eulogies, and I'm a little bit bummed about it. It's okay. People sent me cat videos. Y'all were busy sending me cat videos. I think Insomniac sent me a wombat. I don't trust wombats. I appreciate the energy, but snuck a wombat video in with all the cat videos. And wombats have square poop. Don't trust them. Goes all the way to the top. No. That's all right. As long as you got your therapeutic gloves on and Lucy is there, everything's fine. You don't have to respond. We need a tutorial on how to write a eulogy. All right. I'll get a eulogy or a template for a eulogy, and I will put it in a section on the Redacted so that you guys can know how to format a eulogy, and then you can write me a eulogy. Or anyone a eulogy, or a concept a eulogy, a place, a feeling, a state of being. It'll be great. Write a eulogy for anything. Write a eulogy for an abstract concept. It'll be really fun for me. I feel like maybe will be the biggest success out of any of this, and maybe it's because me and maybe have had many maybe conversations outside on various platforms of things about bullshit, and also on TikTok. No. Okay, I was like, wait. Yeah, eulogy thread. We'll have a eulogy thread. So that's okay. People were busy sending me cats and also a wombat. That one wombat really threw me off. Thank you for the balloons. I appreciate that. So I know we ended up in a weird area last week. So I'm going to go ahead and recap. the story where we left off. If you don't know what we do here, and you're probably going to be real confused in a few minutes because I'm going to start reading a book, and then you're going to be like, why is Shinzo reading a book? Well, to answer your question, it's what I do, and if you don't know what I do here, you can not let the door hit your ass on the way out. No, you can stay if you want, technically. You're just going to be real confused. So, I read a story every week about this time, sometimes on Tuesdays, sometimes at 8. It's all the time. It's every time. It's every Tuesday at 8 here, Central. And I read you a couple chapters out of a book that we've been reading communally. We are on the third book of the Johannes Cabal story. It's a story about a necromancer who is trying to get the secret of full regeneration to give to his dead wife. And he has a heck of a journey doing it. And we're on the third book in the series, so you're going to be really confused if you've never done this before. This one's called Johannes Cabal and the Fear Institute, and we're almost done with it. So it's going to be even worse if you leapt in sometime around the beginning. Because, well, the past 2 chapters, I was really afraid people were going to dip. They were going to be like, you told me this entire series was going to be about this one thing, and it wasn't, and now I'm mad. Well, we're kind of hitting a turning point in the series that I was a little worried about, but don't worry, we still have a whole load of Johannes content left. And I'm kind of saving some of the padding out the in-between the books with short stories that have Johannes in them. Now, yeah, have fun at soup. That chapter was something. Now, the past 2 chapters that we read, the Fear Institute, which at the beginning of this book is about Johannes. He accepts a commission from the 3 gentlemen from something called the Fear Institute who want to destroy the physical manifestation of fear by traveling through the collective dreams of every dreamer that has ever dreamed in perpetuity. So they go to this place called the Dreamlands, which is the collective collection of every dreamer who's ever dreamed. It's a highly dangerous place, and 2 of them have died, and it's just one Fear Institute member left, Gardner Bosey and Johannes Cabal. And Johannes Cabal pushes him into a pit on the island of Mormo. And when he travels down through the rest of the cave, he finds Gardner Bosey, who is actually Nyarlathotep, who, after having a bit of a tizzy with Johannes for a hot minute, decides he's going to give him his heart's desire. Johannes finds himself translocated back to his house, where he finds an envelope with perfect instructions for flawless regeneration, the secret to necromancy, which he promptly starts gathering the ingredients for and putting a collective interest into his new fruitful effort of work, which takes a very long time. He still needs supplies and books and ingredients, and by the time he gets all those, he has done some things in his pursuit of this endeavor that didn't really align with his own moral compass, much less anyone else's. He had already come so far since the beginning of this series that he had became a whole other person in his search. And when he regenerated his wife, so many years had passed, he no longer was the young man who started this journey. He had become a different personality altogether. Sometimes he seemed crueler, more distant. And she realized she didn't love him like she should. And Johannes isn't stupid, and he knew it too. So the day came when one day he put her on a train. He went back to his house. He rigged his boiler to fire and blow up his own house. And before it could, he stuck his gun in his mouth and blew his brains out. And that is where we left off. And yes, I'm Shinzo from My Hero. Hello, nice to meet you. You're probably very confused. I've already done the recap. I can't do anything else for you. Stay at your own risk. Now, that's where we left off. We're going to pick up. Who's ready? I gotta warn you, chapter 15, kind of short. Chapter 16, though, really long, so it kind of evens out. Two. All right. For everybody that didn't read ahead, I'm sorry in advance. Chapter 15, in which little is said, but much is conveyed. Johannes Cabal was not expecting anything very much from death, but the dizziness surprised him. He opened his eyes to find himself in a hemispherical chamber carved into stone. Before him sat a happy man of puppyish demeanor whom Cabal thought somewhat familiar. "Well," said Bosie, "how'd you like those apples, eh?" Cabal could do little but stare at him for an incontinently long time. Then he looked at his hands. They were the hands of a man in his late 20s, steady and unmarked by liver spots. He looked back up at Bosie. "Yarlothotep," said Cabal more calmly than he felt. "You little bastard." And that's chapter 15. I already did my homework. Don't tell me what. That is the end of the chapter. Small. 16 is rather long, though. I'm not lying about that. So, and I didn't even altogether lie. You'll see what I mean. I wasn't lying when I said the book shifted. There isn't going to be Johannes for a while. So I'm telling you the truth. I didn't say he died. The book did. I said the book shifted. And I said the content would change. And I said the next narrator wouldn't be Johannes. And it won't. So, don't think I lied to you. We do have a couple short stories to go through, though. We can if you'd like. Because the end of chapter 16, where 14 kind of left off, where you all were kind of depressed, and some of you, maybe the ones that hadn't read ahead, were kind of like, this is probably a work, but I'm still a little bummed. The next one isn't a work. It has legitimate consequences. But Johannes is capable. One person's figured it out. They've already contacted me and I've confirmed it. Yeah. No, it's okay. Don't worry. The next chapter is quite long. So, and of course, it's more time for us to vibe a little bit. So, you can hop. We'll see you when you pop back in. You're good. You do your thing. We're going to be chilling for a little bit. Jen, what did Jen do? Swift blood? Jen, what'd you do? You have so many meds right now. Well, I hope you got them under wrap. Lady Eva sent me cat videos too. Thank you to everybody who sends me habitual cat videos. Always love those. I will never not appreciate those. I know I don't always acknowledge it because we get kind of busy on the live, but I love it when you all send me cat videos. I got real thrown off by that lone wombat, but it's all right. What did you do? Did you do something in the... Oh, was that the list? You posted the list in the middle of the live. I knew I got a Discord notification. It doesn't tell me what specifically... Unless they're on TikTok, it won't show me my actual notifications. My phone will just go off and an icon will appear. But it will not give me a preview if I'm on live. Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember you saying that in, I think the Redacted. Stick with it. Just stay hydrated, stay in your house, stay safe, take those meds. Swiftblade, ruining the flow of the live, posting master list and shit right in the middle. I only have the one screen open because if I minimize it, you all go away. So I can't check everything. I have to wait and catch up after we get off here. So I get off here, I catch up, I immediately start trying to download the content that I just made and get it transferred through USB to my computer. So that's what I'm doing immediately after the live, which is it takes me a hot minute to get into VC and go ahead and catch up with everything because it takes me a little bit. Multiple devices open. Yes, everybody get your pets. Everybody get your pets. Everybody get... I will... If you had your first smoothie, then you're good on that, because that chapter was very short. But if you don't have a pet, I encourage you to grab one. The next chapter is going to get a little bit odd. So... But this is low-key one of my... The next two chapters are some of my favorite in the series. Because if you were like me when I first read this, I figured the Heart's Desire thing was a riff, was a work. This next part, I felt like was also some sort of work, but I couldn't figure out how it was supposed to work out. Like from an author or a writer's standpoint. Like I was legitimately like, he's written himself into a corner. Like, and as someone who, well, likes to write and enjoys the literary process on the whole, you sort of get what people are going for and what they're aiming for in the direction of the series and the characters' motivations. So it's kind of easy to guess where things are going, and it wasn't so easy to see how this story was going to end. Because you think you know, and you don't. And when I told you that the end was unsatisfying, I meant it. I meant it. Prepare for that. I'm not lying. I didn't say it was bad. I also didn't say it was good. I said it was unsatisfying. You can draw your own conclusions. But, we just need, I can get Gizmo to sleep. My voice is apparently magic, and I can put everyone's pets to sleep. Not in the Nyarlathotep fashion, apparently. Are you talking about my birds, or is it me? Am I too loud? Do I need to check the levels on this mic? It's hard to do that on a phone. I can only really do that on a computer. So I don't know how loud I am. Am I too loud? Am I too loud? Gizmo yelling. Okay, so it's not me. I'm not too loud. One time I plugged this mic into my computer, and I was doing a test audio, and for some reason the level was so high, it sounded like I wasn't even speaking words. It was just like horrendous, like, I don't even know. It was so loud. I felt like I almost broke the speaker when I was doing it because I had my headphones in, and I was like, okay, time to check the levels on this. And I recorded like a second, and then I pressed play, and it was just like, it was so loud. I can't even replicate it. So I cannot check my levels on this phone. It just auto frequencies to, I guess, whatever it deems appropriate, because it won't let me adjust it. On my computer, I can. No, I'm good. Okay. Crimson constantly chastises Gizmo. All right. We all got our pets. We ready for chapter 16? This is my favorite one, so I'm really happy about it. Hey, yo, glad you're here. You've been here before. I don't have to explain things to you. If I see people have legit been here before at least once, I'm like, you know what's up. You know what's happening. All right. Where'd you go? There we go. Chapter 16, in which Cabal plans in the long term and laughter provides to be the worst medicine. How'd you like those apples, eh? Is a ghastly, uncouth phrase to hear from anybody, and coming from a god did not improve it in the slightest. What a ridiculous waste of time, said Cabal, trying to think of a verbal barb sufficiently sharp to sting even an immortal, cosmically puissant being. It was an endeavor doomed to failure. Not for me, said Bosie. Not a second has passed for me. Or for you, if we're being pedantic, and I know how much you enjoy your pedantry. Subjective time doesn't matter a lot, does it, old man? Well, I say old man, but, of course, not as old a man as you thought. Bosie's complacency was such that it took a gargantuan effort of Cabal's will not to stride over to him and slap him as the impertinent schoolboy he was affecting. That would, however, have provided only momentary satisfaction before Bosie. It was so hard to think of him as Nyarlathotep, retaliated in some profoundly horrible, though topographically challenging way. When I'm not running billet doux between my employers, Johannes, I deal in terror and chaos and madness primarily. Death also. But that's just a hobby, really. Sometimes you want something with a little piquancy, though, and despair does it for me. You say what I have shown you is a ridiculous waste of time, but I've not wasted a moment. What you should be realizing is that your life up until now has been a ridiculous waste of time. Your goal is unachievable. You will die in misery just as you saw. I will not die in a retirement home, said Cabal, surrounded by strangers. Your vision was wrong on that count. Details, details. Bosie curled his lower lip and wafted his fingers about. Cabal hoped this was an honest response and not a piece of play acting to counter his own. He dared not test Bosie's knowledge of what Cabal had experienced beyond this without drawing his attention unduly. It would have to do, and he would base his plans on the presumption that the details of the vision were his, and his alone. He did this with a degree of trepidation. Nyarlathotep was the most psychologically human of the old ones, but the gap in intellects dwarfed that between, say, a border collie and Leonardo da Vinci. Galling though it might be to him, Cabal's best hope was that Nyarlathotep could not think down to his level. Bosie's next comment, however, scuppered at least part of that hope. I know what you're thinking, though, Mr. Cabal, he said with an inscrutable smile. You're thinking that I've actually done you a big favor. I've saved you decades in research by letting you live through them in the blink of an eye, and that you can just go home and reproduce the latter stages of your experiments. Cabal's face was inexpressive, but inwardly he winced. That was exactly what he had been hoping. He was also hoping that this reality was the one he thought it was, and Nyarlathotep had not packed him away into a Chinese puzzle box of nested realities interconnected in unexpected ways from which he could never escape. It was a possibility, and the Dreamlands were the ideal environment in which to make it work. The secret you seek is as simple as ABC, said Bosie, demonstrating godly understatement. It was equally simple to concoct a likely but ultimate fallacious path of research and set you off on it, substituting the happy result that you experienced. It was a happy result, wasn't it? You must have wept tears of joy. As practical jokes go, my whoopee cushion is to die for, said Bosie. He smiled wistfully. Horribly. Oh, I meant to ask, your brother, was he there? Cabal felt anger flare and took a moment to damp it down again. My brother is dead. Yes, agreed Bosie. Running around drinking blood, dead. I've heard of that. I may even have invented it. No, not undeath, not anymore. I mean dead. Utterly, irrevocably dead. Really? Bosie rubbed his chin in contemplation. Well, I suppose the line between undeath and death is crossed rather easily one way or the other. Very well, no brother. Any other family members to haunt your conscience? Cabal could feel his anger squirming its way loose of the leash, a development that probably would not go well for him in the present circumstance. I refuse to rise to your childish taunts, he said stiffly. You've had your fun. I'm going now. Oh, yes, of course. You must do as you see fit. I suppose I should crack on myself. Lots of little errands to run and chores to do that have been mounting up while I've been playing with you and those other two animals. Azathoth will want the newspaper reading to him, and Shub-Niggurath always wants help changing the nappies. I'm sure the epithet mother of 1,000 young is only metaphorical, Cabal paused to consider. At least I think it's only metaphorical. Oh, don't I wish, said Bosey and sighed. He stirred himself on his throne and sat up. Well, no time for dawdling. You'd better see yourself out. I'm bored with being an inoffensive solicitor, so I'm going to put on something a little less coherent that will probably shatter your sanity if you look upon it. How exactly do I get off this island? Asked Cabal. Bosey's last few friendly affectations faded away, and he looked stonily at Cabal. I wasn't joking about your sanity, he said in a gravelly voice that no longer sounded much like Bosey, or indeed much like any human. It sounded just like gravel might talk. There seemed little more to be said. Cabal nodded curtly, turned on his heel, and walked out with dignity, all the time being unable to shake the thought that his exit looked no more decorous to Nyarlathotep than a cockroach attempting a dignified scuttle. As he climbed the corridor towards the crevasse-edged chamber, he could hear something particularly disturbing happening behind him, something that made wet noises, ripping noises, and other sounds he could not categorize, but which he suspected were generated by happenings neither common nor comprehensible to a mere mortal such as he. Curiosity is one thing, but there comes a point when a wise man sees all the dead cats lying around the place and thinks, I'll just get along fine without that particular experience. Cabal hastened his step. The sunlight was harsh after the subdued illumination of the phobic animus chamber, and Cabal flicked his blue glass spectacles out of his pocket instinctively and put them on quickly. He walked down the zigzag path and found a boulder to perch upon at the bottom. He would risk re-entering the cave again the next day, by which time even the most sluggardly of multidimensional creatures should have had ample opportunity to change form and leave. He doubted there was much of use in there, but all it would cost him was time, and that, at least, he had plenty of. He cast his mind back to his early musings on escaping the island, and saw little to change his opinion as to the difficulty of the endeavor. He tried to recall if there was anything useful he might gather from a childhood reading of Robinson Crusoe. As far as he could remember, the trick was to avoid being eaten by cannibals. Patronize anybody one might save from said cannibals. Since today is Friday, I shall call you Man Friday. I do have a name, you know, just because you can't pronounce it. Be quiet. I haven't taught you English yet. And then cunningly do nothing very useful for years until fatangly delivered by pirates. No, that would never do. The local pirates were likely to be as bad as cannibals, and that was on the assumption that they weren't actually cannibals themselves. It was hard to believe, but Cabal had the distinct impression that Daniel Defoe had let him down. He sat and watched the sun settle slowly towards the western horizon off to his left. Before him was a vast expanse of ocean without a hint of distant land. Once he thought he saw an island, but it grew closer, and before it finally submerged, he realized that it was actually a sea monster, approximately the size of Rutland. It was a memorable sight, but not one he felt improved him or his situation. As the sun started to dip below the water, crabs began to populate the beach. In common with so much in the Dreamlands, they couldn't simply just be like earthly crabs. These specimens had bodies roughly the size of dinner plates, their chitinous armor colored a dismal brown-orange, puckered like warm celluloid. They had 4 eyes, 2 mounted on stalks in a decent crabbly way, but the others were large and human-like, peering out of round openings in the front seam of the carapace between the upper and lower parts. These eyes occasionally moistened with a meniscus that slid back and forth. Looked permanently startled and cautious, but Cabal knew that that was just an effect of their settling and nothing to do with their owner's actual dispositions. As he had no desire to be pincered to pieces by an army of startled-looking crabs in the early hours, he retired to the cave entrance and blocked off the path with rocks. He hoped the crabs weren't substantially more intelligent than they looked, and settled down for a miserable night's sleep in the sandy cave mouth. Next morning he discovered some useful information about the crabs, that they had probably intended to eat him if they could, but that their rapacious appetites, fortunately, far outstripped their intelligence, and breakfast, there was a small pile of crabs lying on their backs beneath the cave mouth that had fallen there while trying to negotiate Cabal's rock blockade. They were still alive, and if anything, looking more startled than usual. He cracked them open with a sharp stone, which startled them still further, and cooked them on a fire lit with one of the precious remaining matches. He decided that he would keep the fire going as long as he could and start supplementary fires elsewhere. He had no idea how long it might take to get off the island, or if he ever would, and permanent fires seemed like useful things to have. He might get lucky and find a supply of flint, but he probably wouldn't, and the whole idea of rumbling sticks together seemed very hit and miss. The smoke from the fire might also attract the attention of passing ships, should there be any, bearing in mind Mormo's reputation for obscurity. Admittedly, given the Dreamland's tendency toward the dramatic, should any ship come to the island, it would probably be full of cannibalistic pirates, piratical cannibals, Jehovah's Witnesses, or similar. That was acceptable, however. He was sure they could come to some arrangement that didn't involve any unpleasantness to himself, at any rate. Somewhere around midday, Cabal re-entered the caves and made his way with no great enthusiasm to the throne room. There was no self-proclaimed phobic animus in residence, and Cabal presumed that he was no longer of interest, and Nyarlathotep was off elsewhere, doing incoherent alien things, incomprehensible to anybody who couldn't think in more than 11 or 12 dimensions. Somewhere between the realities floated a god's to-do list with the name Johannes Cabal firmly ticked off. He did not know whether to feel insulted or relieved that he was no longer a person of interest, and settled on relieved, although he would have been still more relieved to have been put somewhere more convenient than Mormo at the end of Nyarlathotep's pitiless little game. Cabal sat upon the throne to think, and presently sprawled upon it for comfort, incidentally and unself-consciously mimicking Bosie's attitude of the previous day. In the first instance, he decided it would be necessary thoroughly to explore Mormo to discover what it contained, and then to make plans based on whatever resources were revealed. His options seemed to coalesce into a simple choice between making his home there and hoping for rescue, or building a vessel and taking his chances with the sea. The latter course was by far the more dangerous, but also the least maddening. The very thought of sitting around and feeling his life frittering away was abominable. No, unless his survey of the island turned up something unexpectedly useful, such as a marina on the north shore, or even an isthmus to the mainland, then he would put together some sort of boat and bet his life on it, neither falling apart nor being swallowed by Moby Rutland. His mind made up, he went out to see what wonders the beaches and wooded slopes of Mormo might conceal. The woods contained trees, and the beaches contained sand, and occasionally large crabs that seemed astonished by their own vicious aggression. It was a disappointing exploration, but Cabal did not begrudge the 3 days it took to circumnavigate the coast, and to examine much of the forest, and look upon the open upper slopes of the rocky island heart. Food, at least, was not too uncommon. Aside from the vicious but splendidly stupid crabs, there were coconut palms, something like papayas and breadfruit groves, and even a couple of families of wild pigs that avoided him as carefully as he avoided them. It was good to know that they were there, though, should he ever decide the meat part of his diet was becoming tediously crab-oriented. His survey completed, he arrived back at the cave and considered the practicalities of his next move. He had searched the outer part of the island, true, but that still left the inner. The great crack in the throne room's antechamber might lead him somewhere and required exploration. A stone tossed experimentally into the void went a long way before a distant clatter of impact arrived back at Cabal's ears. Assuming the laws of physics were more or less the same as in the mundane world, and making an educated guess as to the effect of air resistance, he gauged a drop of somewhere between 120 and 150 feet. That was a long way to climb in near darkness, and there were few handholds from what he could see close by the upper reaches. He needed a rope, and he realized he had the necessary elements to make one. Coconut rope requires two things above all others: a lot of coconuts and a lot of time. He distantly remembered reading once how such rope was made, and knew that simply making the white core fiber he needed would take the best part of a year, assuming that he was lucky with the current stage of the coconut's growth cycle. Cabal considered this and decided that it would be a last resort if he could not find a more immediate alternative. The obvious one was to use jungle creepers, of which he had noted several varieties of the sortie. An expedition specifically to investigate them returned with results that one was covered with tiny thorns, another had the tensile strength of uncooked bread dough, a third was a fortuitously mild-tempered snake, and a fourth felt like weathered electrical cable. Of this last, he harvested as much as he could find and dragged it back to the cave, leaving strange tendrilled tracks in the sand behind him. It was slow, tedious work, and Cabal's mind wandered as he plaited the creepers into lengths of makeshift rope that he would tie or splice together when the time came. He thought of the future Nyarlathotep had shown him, of himself as an old man, and she still as young as when it had all begun. He remembered the pity in her face when he had said his last goodbye to her, the walk back to his house, his aging knees, ankles, and hips complaining. He remembered the taste of the gun in his mouth. A strange flicker appeared at the corner of Cabal's mouth. An uninvolved and disinterested observer might have thought it was a twitch of amusement, a ghost of a smile. To anyone who knew Cabal, however, that was clearly nonsense. Unless Nyarlathotep, for all his vast intelligence, for all his wiles and experience, truly was not ever able fully to understand the shadows and light within the human heart. Unless Nyarlathotep had somehow missed a nuance in his dealings with Cabal that he simply could not comprehend. Unless Cabal had somehow pulled the wool over a god's eyes. But no, that was not the case. In truth, Cabal had pulled fully 2 layers of wool over a god's eyes. The great problem with being a trickster god, or, as in Nyarlathotep's case, the trickster god, was that anyone who deals with one from a position of knowing that one is a trickster is necessarily expecting to be tricked. The true trick that had been played upon Cabal was of such passing subtlety and arcane significance that, apart from the waste of time it constituted, he didn't mind greatly. His main intentions when agreeing to accompany the Fear Institute expedition had been to gain the Silver Key and to reconnoiter the Dreamlands, and he had achieved both of these aims. He had never been convinced by the Institute's claim that such an entity as the phobic animus really existed, and became increasingly cynical as clues and happenstance led them on a path that had been obscure to all others previously. Where others had paranoia, Cabal had a sense of self-preservation that bordered on the supernatural. It gathered every inconformity, every non sequitur, every coincidence, and built deductions from them, as others might build models of the Eiffel Tower from discarded matches. Every such theoretical construct was measured against the metric of likelihood, and where it fell short, it was ignored for the time being. On entering the dreamlands, Cabal had unconsciously lowered this metric, and it had served him well. Where the others had disregarded their unexpected appearance in the dark wood as some sort of wonderland experience to be accepted without question, Cabal had filed it away under suspicious occurrences, and had been adding to the file ever since. Bosey's great revelation had therefore been anticipated. This much had already been stated, but Cabal's guard against deceit was not lowered when Bosey's true colors had been unfurled. So, when Bosey, Nyarlathotep, had so obligingly given him the basic principle of perfect resurrection, he was already deeply suspicious. As has famously been noted, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Thus, he had regarded Nyarlathotep's great banquet with particular caution. When Cabal had first embarked upon the quest for the phobic animus, this most Bajumish of snarks had naturally considered where he might be most vulnerable to its tenebrous wiles. Physical injury and pain he regarded as unpleasant, but commonplace. Unless one lived one's life wrapped in Kappa and under sedation, then injury and pain were certainties to be expected, and dealt with rationally and promptly. He did not look forward to them, but neither did he fear them. He spent no time at all considering the more fanciful phobias. A man who is used to facing down the walking dead and battling ghosts as part of his job description is unlikely to be utterly unmanned by the sight of ducks or the sound of whistling. This left the quieter internal fears, the psychic cancers of doubt. Among these, Cabal's greatest was failure, but it was a clear and obvious one that he had long since armored his heart against. If ultimately he failed, then there was little he could do about it. Sometimes it still tormented him, but no great endeavor goes without the possibility of its coming to naught. A truism that no longer galled him as much as it might. Nyarlathotep, however, was wilier than that. He had settled upon the fear of success. Total, absolute success in all respects save timeliness. This was something Cabal had no defense against, except pointedly ignoring it and hoping it would not be so. The phantasmal personation of such a future that had been visited upon him was therefore perfectly pitched and unimaginably cruel. It was also expected, given Nyarlathotep's reputation for the unimaginable cruelty. Thus, Cabal settled down for several subjective decades of play acting, carrying out experiments that he knew were useless in the real world. These were the experiments based on the core mechanism that had been provided to him on the parchment, and a forgery of his own hand. There were other experiments, however, apparently arranged as confirmatory or deductive exercises to support the central thesis. These were scattered over the years in an attempt, apparently successful, to hide their true nature as a single coherent line of research. Cabal knew that, for all their power, none of the great old ones was truly omnipotent or omniscient, even if at least Yog-Sothoth managed the party trick of eternal omnipresence. The likelihood was that Nyarlathotep did not actually know what was happening in Cabal's false future beyond the planned sweep of it, but caution seemed wise all the same. Thus it was not a complete waste of time at all. In his vanity, the crawling chaos had gifted Cabal several very useful years of research in the space of a single second. This was the first layer of wool. The second was less involved, but far more important to Cabal. If its nature is enragingly opaque to the reader who is likely to belong to the human race, then it may be understood how entirely incomprehensible it was to a mind as alien as a god's. Cabal worked steadily and diligently on the vines to create his rope. He noted that they were drying as they were braided, and he hoped that this would increase rather than decrease their strength. Certainly it would reduce their weight, which could only help. Even slightly dried out, this rope would have a formidable mass, and the possibility of it snapping under its own weight was a very real one. What might happen when his own weight was added to it was a concern. He would make a few experiments using rocks to simulate him, but he still had a baleful impression that this safety margin would be a narrow one. This wariness resulted in, over the next few weeks, the construction of a large balanced scale onto which Cabal placed himself on one side and different quantities of rocks on the other, until he had a pile that equaled his own mass, plus a little extra to allow for impulse strain caused by the act of climbing upon it, and a little extra more for safety. Then his line of experimentation moved to dangling a woven sack of rocks on varying lengths of rope. Sometimes the rope snapped, or separated at the splices, and Cabal would swear volubly for a minute or two, and then get back to the project. Every day, however, he made a point to give himself a moment or so in the domed room just to say, "You little bastard," to the empty throne before getting on with his rope work. Finally, sometime after every possible variant of stupid crab, coconut, breadfruit, and papaya had been tried, but shortly before culinary boredom set him after the pigs, the rope was completed to his reasonable, if not absolute, satisfaction. Cabal allowed himself a night's rest before embarking on the descent. He dropped a bundle of torches into the depths, crude items of wood with coconut matting heads moist with crab grease that he knew would burn for a disgustingly stench-filled half an hour when lit. Arcusides on a stick was certainly more reliable and less odoriferous, but it was also voluble and inclined to testiness. Cabal would make do with his crab-fat torches instead. The bundle was wrapped around some food, although he doubted the little tetrahedral cage he had formed from the torches would survive impact. He knew the area he was descending to was reasonably flat, having cast several burning torches down in a survey the previous week, so there was one less thing to worry about. Muttering irritably under his breath, he fed the secured rope down into the darkness and then, muttering stilled, began the climb downwards. Very aware of the old mountaineer's maxim that if one is going to fall off a rope, it is usually better to do so near the bottom, he made the best time he could without resorting to abseiling, which might put too much strain on the plated creepers. Quickly he slid down into a thick, tangible darkness that closed in around him like oil. Above him, the glimmering light from the permanently alight and very permanently fixed, as he had discovered, flambeau grew attenuated and then seemed to flicker out altogether. Soon, the only way he had to gauge his progress was the number of times he had moved his hands down the rope, and that was a rough approximation at best. Then, with about 40 feet to go, the rope parted. He fell in silence, but inwardly he was thinking, typical. He awoke with no idea of how long he had been unconscious. This was low on his list of priorities at the time, it is true, lagging a long way behind a warranted sense of elation at not being dead and an equally justifiable sense of relief that his skeleton still seemed to be in the correct number of pieces. This miraculous escape was rendered less miraculous by the discovery that he was lying in a deep bed of some fibrous, hair-like material that must have cushioned him on impact. While grateful for its serendipitous placement, he was less happy at what it might turn out to be. The image that had leapt first to his mind was a massive form of mucor, the thread-like mound often found on rotting vegetable matter, but this impression passed quickly when he realized that the threads were dry and not standing vertically but curled and balled. There was the smell, too, dry and musty, with a faint but distinct scent redolent of old crypts. A suspicion began to form, and he rolled slowly from the strange mound, ignoring the discomfort of the bruising he had suffered in his fall. He cast around on the rocky floor, finding only gravel and grit for several long minutes, until his hand brushed against a piece of wood, and he realized it was one of his torches. The head of wiry coconut coir was greasy with crab fat, and he realized that it must be one of the new torches from his provisions cache. That it was there by itself didn't raise hopes for the state of the cache, but he would worry about that in a moment. He took out a silver matchbox and struck a light, allowing the flame to settle and grow in the still air before applying it to the torch. The grease melted and bubbled before the flame took and spread across the matting head, and finally he was able to look around. The first thing he saw was the provisions bundle. It was not nearly as badly damaged as he had first anticipated. In fact, the only thing different about its state from the moment he had dropped it into the abyss was that one torch had become detached, and that was the torch with which he was now examining it. Serendipity again, it seemed. The next thing he saw was that he had fallen onto. His second supposition as to its constitution was, he was very sorry to say, the correct one. It was hair. Vast, vast quantities of hair formed into an untidy pile. Moreover, it was human hair. Its length, coloration, and here and there signs of dyeing and highlights gave no other possible origin. The fact that quite a few bits of desiccated scalp were still attached clinched the identification. Its presence posed two major questions. Where had such a huge, multi-hued hairball come from, and why was it here now? Unless some sort of demon trichologist was haunting this dark passageway, Cabal was forced to admit to himself that he had no idea. Then, when he raised his torch high to look around, the third thing he saw was the great ring of perhaps 100 or so ghouls that encircled him, down on their haunches, silently watching. Once again, Johannes Cabal thought, typical. Then, he considered the wisdom of reaching for his sword and found it wanting. Besides, they could have killed him in any second since his undignified arrival into this darkness, and had not done so. He had been, and remained, it seemed, an object of fascination among the ghouls. They just seemed to follow him around to see what amusing misadventure he might become embroiled within next. When one's career consists of haunting graveyards and eating human corpses of varied freshness, Cabal conceded one has to find one's entertainment where one can. "Well," he said, clearly and unwavering, "how may I help you, ladies and gentlemen?" They all looked very similar, with no obviously sexually dimorphic features, but he knew that every one of them had once been as human as he. Such niceties as showing basic politeness might make the difference between life and lunch. The ghouls did not reply to him, but meeped and glibbered among themselves, as was their depraved wont. Neither, however, did they come any closer or retreat from the uncertain light of his torch. Cabal wondered just how long they would keep this up. It was like being threatened by wolves dressed as sheep, who had sunk so deep into their method acting that they were now unclear about the whole being dangerous thing. Experimentally, he took a step forward. The ghouls before him scuttled back a step, while those beside and behind him scuttled sideways and forward, accordingly to maintain the cordon. Marvelous, he thought. I have my own very halo of ghouls. Happy day. Yes. Yes. Come on. Everyone say hi. Of course, Pond has to interrupt. Reading the book, Pond. Pond. You wanna lay down over there? You wanna lay down over there? Do you smell catnip? Is that what it is? Oh. I did. I summoned my ghoul. She wants her catnip toy. Here, let me cut it off for you really quick. Here, I'll give it to you. Here, let me cut it open first. Okay, hold on. Sorry, she's very distracted. I don't know if she just dug her whole face in it. So, here, hold on. I'll get it out for you. Bella has one too, you know. You can't have both. I will give it to you though. Here. You can lay over here and probably very not calmly or quietly go to town on this little catnip toy. Here. Yeah. Catnip. There you go. She's about it. She immediately was like, just rubbed her whole face on it. You do it. Sorry for the interruption. We will continue. He was just considering, perhaps unwisely, the possible results of leaping forward, arms held high and bellowing "Boo!" at them, when there was a disturbance in the circle off to his right. He turned as the line opened a gap and allowed through another ghoul. Physically, there was little to delineate him from his fellows, but there was a spark of recognition, psychic and certain, in Cabal's mind, that this was the same specimen he had spoken to in Arkham, and in the nameless city on the bank of the Lake of Yath. "We meet again," Cabal said. "I'm fairly sure. What cryptic truths have you come to bore me with this time?" The ghoul settled down on the grimy rock, crossing its legs with practiced ease, despite the way its knees bent backward like a dog's. "The last but one, Johannes Cabal." It fell silent, watching Cabal with its head cocked to one side. "Well," said Cabal, "if you could buck up and illuminate my ignorance, I should be very grateful. Actually, if you want me to be very, very grateful, I would appreciate being led from here to the waking world. This darkness is clearly with your territory, so it shouldn't be very difficult for—" But the ghoul was slowly shaking its head. It was hard to tell if it was grinning. The line of its muzzle and the flickering light made things uncertain. "It is not for me to tell Johannes Cabal what the truth is. Johannes Cabal will see for himself very soon." "What? What do you mean? Am I intended to deduce it? Play 20 questions? This is ridiculous." And it was ridiculous. The more he thought about it, the more ridiculous it seemed. Here he was, in the depths of an abyss, within the bowels of an uncharted island, and an alien sea on a different plane of existence, surrounded by monsters playing guessing games. It was ridiculous, and soon he couldn't see anything else but how ridiculous it was, and that was when he started laughing. The laughing started with giggling and then full-mouthed guffawing, and it grew louder and more hysterical as the ghouls watched in silence and perhaps in sadness. Within Cabal, he felt panic as the tightly held reins that had steered him from insanity on so many occasions suddenly flapped loose and useless. He felt his mental discipline turn into water as it bore him to the lip of another abyss. This abyss descended into far darker places than he had ever experienced before, and it was from one which even the most accomplished spelunkers would never return. And then he heard his own laughter, shrill and humorless, gulping breaths behind it. He heard those half-swallowed sounds and he recognized them, and the fear blossomed within him like flame. The Fear Institute had been right all along, it seemed. Here, truly, was the phobic animus, or his, at least. Where Nyarlathotep had failed, the ghouls had succeeded. He dropped his torch and fell to his knees, and then to all fours, and his hands were before him, and would he had worn gloves to save him from the sight. He saw the fingers were perhaps a little too long, and the nails a little too pronounced, the skin a shade too gray. He stared at them, making despairing little barking sounds under his breath, and so was unaware when the leader of the ghouls crept close and sat by him. "Do not fear, Johannes, Cabal," it said, though not in any human tongue. "We shall look after you. Now you are family." Surviving fragments from Cyril W. Clone's manuscript for the Young Person's Guide to Cthulhu and His Friends, number 5, NABC. A is for Azathoth, all mindless in space. B is for Bugshosh, a god with no face. C is for Cthulhu, the father of screams. D is for deep ones who watch while he dreams. E is for elder things that lived long ago. F is for fire vampire, they don't like the snow. G is for ghouls who look much the same. H is for Hastur, but don't say his name. I is for Ithaca, you'll freeze to the bone. J is for Jukshab, of whom little is known. K is for Kadath, lost in cold waste. L is for Loigar, of decadent taste. M is for Meagle, clever if fungal. N is for Nyarlathotep, not prone to bungle. O is for Orn, a mollusk from hell. P is for Pluto, called Yugoth as well. Q is for Kuthoz, a strange deity. R is for Rogog, who looks like a tree. S is for Shobnigaroth, her prey are dismayed. T is for Sulthalga, whose needs are depraved. U is for Ulthar, cat killers be warned. V is for Vorl, where Cthulhu was spawned. W is for Witch House, down Old Arkham Way. X is for Kuchata, which is tricky to say. Y is for Yog-Sothoth, whose every when and where. Z is for Zothomog, great Cthulhu's third heir. Read this right through, and then you may see that the MS halts abruptly at this point. The author remains largely missing, but for his finger and toenails and his eyes. catnip toy. Yeah. You can take him with you. It's not mine. We have one more chapter in this book. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's what happens to Johannes. From one end to the other. Yeah. Ray knew. Ray knew. Ray guessed a while back that is what happened. But I did not alert them as to how it would go. I like the ABCs list. And I figured you guys would like it too. Glad you're enjoying it. We do still have one more chapter in this book. And then we have a couple short stories. So I think what we're going to do is next week we will read the tail end. And we will do however many short stories. I will tell you, whatever we can get through, I think before 11, we'll do so. We're going to have an extra long session because we have one really long short story. And I'm not sure if we can fit it. It might need to be its own episode. It's almost like a mini book. It's as close to being a novella as it could be. And it's like 50 to 60 pages. Just the one short story. For reference, most of the short stories, the longest one has only been about 30 to 40 pages. So it's longer by those. The longest one that we've read is Eggs and Demon King. The longest. And I am not so sure. We might need to pair it with one that is extremely short, or it might need to have its own episode. But either way, I think we're going to read the last chapter of this one, and we're going to go with The Death of Me, which is immediately preceding the Fear Institute, and you will understand a little bit more about the precedent of the Fear Institute as a story once we read that. And I'm sorry I didn't get to it earlier. What are we doing? What are we waking up? Who are we waking up? What are we doing? What are you doing? Yes. That would really freak out. I will have a copy of that somewhere. I'll type it out and send you a copy of the Deep Ones ABCs. Here, take this. Quit giving it to me. I appreciate you giving it to me, but I don't need it. The Pawn really likes her catnip toy, by the way. She keeps, like, rubbing it and then trying to give it to me like I need it. I'm like, no, it's yours. You can keep it. That's very sweet of you, though. Just like tearing up this thing. I will go ahead, I will type that up and I will post it. I'm glad you like that one, because all of it has so far just been like, ow, that was my toe. Hey, no, my toe doesn't have catnip in it. Ow. She's getting lit over here. Pondus. I'm glad you all like it, because so far it was just like introductory paragraphs to some of the like more widely known but not as widely known. Like it starts off with Cthulhu and goes into the more ambiguous ones over time. And then they put the whole ABCs in there, and I was like, yes. The first time I read it, I was like, I gotta get one of these for the wall. We gotta get an artist to commission this. Where my artist at? We have several good ones. Someone's gotta make like a calendar, like a like a poster for that. I'd pay for that. I'd want one. Hi Logan, I'm good. Glad to see you. Yes. Yeah, if someone made a calendar or like a poster or something for that, would enjoy. Would for sure pay for that. I gotta get a video of Pond playing with this before the night's over, because she's really digging it. Did you lose it? Where'd you put it? Where'd you put it? She's gone suspiciously quiet. She attacked my foot, and then when I reprimanded her, got suspiciously quiet. I was like, oh, that's my foot. And then she just, I think she's spacing out now. She's in the spaced out phase. They like catnip, but we don't often give them a whole bunch of it, or very often. It's more like a once in a time, once every once in a while kind of treat. So, and they don't get toys with them very often. Sometimes we'll get them one, but where'd you put it? Huh? Did you bury it under yourself so I can't get it? You did. I can feel it. You want to say hi? Are you in a bad mood? Are you spaced out? If I grab you, are you going to freak out? I don't want you to freak out if you're hopped up. She did nothing but like attack that toy for like a good 10 to 15 minutes or so yet. So I think she's spacing out. She got suspiciously quiet. Yeah, her purring's gone down. She just sort of like at the blankets. I don't know if I'll bother her right now. I gotta get video of it at some point. But she's losing it. Bella's gonna go nuts. Bella loves anything she can bat around the floor. So this is really sweet, Swiftblood. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's recently gifted me something. Every thank you note from my Amazon wish list goes up on my wall, by the way. So maybe with the spine, your notes have gone up on the wall. Swiftbloods are going up on the wall. And to everybody who donated my Ko-fi, I really appreciate it. It's still like transferring. It takes like an inordinately long amount of time to transfer it. But once it hits my account, I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on the stuff. And if you list specifically that you want me to use it for a certain cosplay, I definitely will. I'm doing that with Crimson's. They said it was for contacts, so we're getting contacts, bitches. And I will do an update. When I get those in, I will show you exactly what you purchased, and you'll be able to see when they crop up and what they got used for, so it doesn't feel like you're throwing your money into the void. And to everyone who has given me something, if you want a little something in return, I most definitely am going to send you some keychains that Sarah has been 3D printing, and as well as some other stuff. like some other little knickknacks that he's been coming up with. So that'll be really neat. And hopefully you'll like them. But that's his thing. So he likes 3D printing. And so we're utilizing that and giving you a little something back. But just know, anytime you send me something, I really appreciate it. And I know Bella's gonna love this little guy. It's got a lot of catnip on it. And Pond has a matching one. And there's a dog treat for Scout. So Swiftblood just got every pet a gift. And I really appreciate that. So thank you so much, Swiftblood. Once again, happy birthday to Nightshade. I don't know if Nightshade is in here right now. Hopefully Nightshade's able to dip in and out. But they're having their 21st. So if you can, in the Redacted, if you haven't done so already, wish him a happy birthday. Yeah, Nightshade's still here. Wish him a happy birthday. I think we're all gonna crowd in the VC later and have a little mini birthday party for Nightshade because it's their 21st and everybody should have their 21st celebrated accordingly. And if you have someone in your life and you know it's their birthday, tell them happy birthday. It's the least you could do, guys. Seriously. A lot of people don't get told happy birthday or really get, any sort of feeling that people are happy that they're around, and that can be really devastating. So let people know that you care about them the best way that you can. And this is kind of hypocritical because I'm really bad at letting people know that I appreciate them, but I do. So thank you for being here. And I most def am. So I will see you there. I will have some stuff to do. And I'm chilling here for a hot minute because the first chapter was just a little bit too short. And I was afraid of the length of it. Was hard to space out because I was afraid of the length of the other one. Because most of the pages are maybe about 10 pages long. And this was about twice that. But the first chapter was a page. So I was like, well... So I felt kind of rushed and also not kind of rushed at the same time. So I was like, how fast do I go? How slow do I gotta go to get done in a timely manner? So it's hard to space out. But hopefully you all enjoyed it and I didn't talk too fast. I was trying to check myself halfway through. So hey, that's okay. If you ever write at any time to get lit, it's on your 21st birthday, so... You gotta finish some nails. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Denny does really cool nails. I can't do nails that good. I do Sarah's nails sometimes. They look shitty, though. They look nothing like... They look nothing like awesome. So yeah, it's also like a really cool thing because I know I was joking about somebody making a poster earlier. If you really do that, do let me know because that's super cool. And I always enjoy seeing your guys' art. Some of it's fan art of me, which I always appreciate, but a lot of it is just really cool original artwork that a lot of super talented people do in our Redacted all the fucking time. And it's super fucking cool. And y'all have a skill that I just don't. It's really... People work hard at that shit. It's really easy to look at stuff and think that it's just unmitigated skill. It's not. People work really hard on that stuff. And so you can tell Denny's been doing nails for years. And, people who do stuff like that work at it for years. So it's all awesome. You're all awesome. And if you're going to look up an artist or offer to... That's why I said I would pay for that poster if someone designed it. I will. I will pay you. I have paid creators, or have at least offered to pay whatever they want for artwork that they've made, especially if I use it. Strawberry Curie, when they did my, it's on the YouTube, what's it called? The thing in the background, banner, there we go. I was like, why can't I think of the word that this is? the banner. That was not designed by me. I did not do that. Strawberry Curie did that. Look up their work on Instagram. They're really good. And they designed that, and I offered to pay for that. Pay artist. This is what I'm getting at. Pay artist what you think it's worth. And if you design a poster, I'll pay you to make it. I'll pay you to go to fucking Kinko's or whatever the hell and get that shit made. I'll pay for shipping. I'll pay for it. I'll do it. I'm willing to pay you for your time because you should be compensated for shit like that. It's super cool. None of this, like, do it for me because I'm on TikTok or whatever the fuck. No. I don't care. You get money. Don't be afraid to ask for money if you're an artist. If it's really worth it, they'll pay for it. But I will pay for a poster if you want to design it. And appreciate local artists, especially like artists or like freelance artists or people who own their own businesses. Appreciate them, especially when they're on TikTok really struggling and trying to make it. Like, they aren't some big corporation that you can go into like a fucking wherever and purchase any cookie cutter thing off the shelf. Like, a lot of artists will design stuff explicitly for you, and I think that's really fucking cool. But just be prepared to compensate them for that. They are a gift that we will not have in the future if you do not want to compensate them for it. I can read some more tonight. There's not going to be any more Johannes tonight. But if you all want some extra super bonus content, there's a couple Lovecraft stories that I want to go through that are my favorites and also have bearing on the Johannes series, if you would like to hear those. Some of them run kind of long, so it depends. But I'll probably do that in the redacted area as bonus content for you lovely people. And if you're wondering how you can get in the VC or in the redacted, you can't right now. I removed the link because suspicious people doing stuff around Pride that really bums me out. And I'll post it after this month is over, and you can catch up on stuff and join if you want to. We're a pretty small band of nerds, so just know that before you get in there. But yeah, I have a couple selections sort of lined up for bonus content every once in a while. Sometimes we don't always get to it because there's not a whole lot of people in there to enjoy it, or we have like a different vibe going on there. But seeing as it's Nightshade's birthday, we can do that. I think it's up to Nightshade. It's their birthday. If they want bonus content, they get bonus content. If they don't want bonus content and they want a vibe kind of lit, totally cool. Like, no. Yeah, Lady Aoife has COVID. Lady Aoife, I hope you feel better, and I hope you have a good night. Take all your meds, stay hydrated, get some sleep, and we'll see you here next Tuesday. But yes, bonus content if you want it. I'll even let you select a couple different ones. Some of them have bearing on Johannes. Not all of them do, but some of them do. We did read Cats of Ulthar, which is very short. If you missed it, I can maybe record that separately and upload that on the YouTube if people want to hear some of the bonus content. It might be slightly delayed, but I do have a couple of Lovecraft stories that I know I would love to read to you, and I will give you the options later in the VC, and we can see what we want to do. Pond is chilling on her little catnip toy. It's the cutest thing ever. Just kind of spacing out though, so I don't want to bother her too much. Although, I do reserve to say that the only other one that contains cats, there isn't an appropriate name for the cat, and I will not be saying it. We don't condone that in this house. But, yes, more Lovecraft. My favorite Lovecraft story I wanted to read you, it doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of bearing on Johannes, but it does have an influence in a way. And here's what I mean by that. There are two stories that impact this particular scene in Johannes at the beginning when they find the artist who's like, oh yes, it all makes sense now. Where's the gate? Where's the key? And it's very Ghostbusters, I am the key master. That whole scene is influenced by two separate Lovecraft stories, one of which is my favorite. It's called Pickman's Model. And it also, you can see where it's influenced some of the ghoul sort of descriptions from Jonathan Howard, because there's some ghoul talk in the story, and you'll see what I mean if we read that one, but I don't want to spoil it too much. But basically, it's two friends. One of them is making fun of the other one for not wanting to ride on public transit. And he's like, you don't understand what happened last time I rode the bus. It was some bullshit, and I'm going to tell you why. And they start talking about a mutual friend who one of them has just decided that he's not going to be friends with anymore. And he's like, fuck that guy. That guy's a freak. I'm going to tell you why. And the guy's like, okay, sure, I didn't really think he was that bad. And he's like, no, he's an asshole. Don't worry, I'm going to spill the tea. And then he just spills a bunch of tea about this mutual friend of theirs and how shitty he is and why. And it quickly turns into like a very dark, like, artist situation. And then there is another one that I cannot quite recall the name of. I'm gonna get it really quick because it's over there on the table right next to the Johannes books. I'm gonna get up for a second, okay? You don't have to get up. I know you're freaking out right now. You're good. You're good. You can lay right there. Okay. I'm just gonna grab this. Okay. Got it. Okay. This other one that impacted the same scene is The Music of Eric Zahn, which is about an artist who is living in this house and he only plays violin at night. And this other curious tenant consistently wants to hear him play and always tries to sneak up there to hear him. But once the old artist knows that he's doing that, requests for him to be moved further away so that nobody can hear him. And nobody really knows why. And it turns into a very odd, cornered in an upstairs apartment sort of situation with a lot of creepy shit happening. So I think those are both impacting the same thing. There is a couple other ones that I really like that I would love to make bonus content on, though. Yeah, Pond is out of it. I think Pond's gonna fall asleep, actually. She's so cute. She's like breathing really heavy and just sort of laying down and like staring, both eyes open, but she's like completely flat. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna fall asleep. Oh, thank you for the tiny dino. Appreciate that. I feel like I missed something. Yeah. So we have an abundance of choices here, and since it's Nightshade's birthday, I think if Nightshade wants bonus content, Nightshade should be in charge of the selection. I have a couple other ones. Name him Littlefoot. But I'll consistently read Lovecraft to you if you all want to hear it. The only one that I just do not want to read, and I'm going to say this now, because it's controversial among the Lovecraft community, because a lot of people think this is the best one. I do not. I can barely read it myself. Like, if I tried to read it to you all, I'm confident that I would put myself to sleep. Because the one that I'm talking about is, of course, Mountains of Madness. I don't want to read Mountains of Madness. That's the only one that I really hope you don't vote for, because I probably won't make it, guys. Mountains of Madness is about a team of explorers that go very far north into the Arctic to explore a mountain range. Basically, like a dig site. And they go to explore this vast mountain range, and they find an extraterrestrial creature / race. And the first initial search party, or first initial team that goes of explorers that went there is inexplicably missing. A bunch of their dogs have been murdered, stuff like that, and it gets very suspicious and very creepy. But more than 3/4 of this story is, if you've ever had a problem, and I don't have this problem, I love this. If you've ever read Tolkien, like Lord of the Rings, and you've been like, I just couldn't get through it because there's too many descriptions of trees. I love Tolkien. I have read all of Lord of the Rings multiple times. But if that is you, you will not make it through Mountains of Madness. Thank you for the roses. Take that number that Tolkien describes trees, make the paragraphs about 4 sentences longer, and times the amount of paragraphs by 5 for each instance of Tolkien talking about a tree, and you have the amount of time that Lovecraft spends describing literal, in feet, definitions of mountain ranges. Just describing whole mountain ranges. For paragraphs. It is the most grueling story of Lovecraft's. I've only managed to read it through twice. See, I love Tolkien. I still cannot read Mountains of Madness. So I'm telling you, if you don't like vast descriptions of mountain ranges for several paragraphs, you will not like that one. You will not like that one. I don't even like it. And Oh, and the thing is that it's the driest description. Because keep in mind, Lovecraft is old. A lot of it is in, like, a more archaic and proper British way of writing and also speaking. Some words are actually, like, what we would term them now, spelled incorrectly because of how old it was written. This is the driest description of a mountain range you have ever read in your entire life. It's so... It circumnavigates about the point. Just... You don't have to beat around the bush describing a mountain. You don't have to. Just say it's big, dog. Just say it's big. We get it. It's a mountain. I say it's cold. It is. It's cold. We know it. We know it's cold. Yes. Well, we're all going to go to the redacted in a little bit. Because it's closing in on 10 now. So I'm about to get off here in a few minutes. Go ahead and try and upload the stuff. Make sure Pond's okay. Go give the pets the respect treat. Hopefully get some filming opportunity out of it so I can send it to Swiftblood. And then we're all going to meet back here. So... It's just like we were at this degree and this degree latitude and longitude up the scale of 100,000 foot tall of the first range of mountains that was to the direct south of the first search party, which was navigating the extent of the 300,000 mile mountain, and it just goes on like that. It just goes on like that. It's terrible. I can't do Mountains of Madness, but I will tell you which ones I recommend. I will give you the table of contents of the ones that I do currently own in a big compilation that we'll be starting with. And I will also research the other ones that I know I have individual copies of sporadically. And we will go through all the ones that impacted Johannes. You can vote on them. And we'll see which ones you want to read for bonus content. All right. We're all going to transfer to the redacted. But, yeah, thank you for joining me. If you are in here and you're not one of the normal people, I don't think there's any new people in here right now. But if you're new and you want to do this every week, we come together Tuesday. Sorry, the Beatles just popped into my head. Come together right now. Okay. Yeah, we all show up here at 8 p.m. Central on Tuesdays. We read a book. Join us next time. All that jazz. All right. I will see you guys soon here in a few minutes, okay?